Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. My name is Sean Hershey, and I am a therapist, and I specialize in helping people heal from chronic pain and from chronic symptoms using emotional and psychological modalities. Most people don't even know that's possible, but it is. Okay, today we have a really awesome interview. So I put out, as if you follow the podcast, I put out a episode a couple weeks ago that was called "Why Hasn't Physical Therapy Worked for Me?" Okay. And then lo and behold, the next day, what do I get but a email from my friend Nida Tansinsin. And Nida is a physical therapist who did this very cool talk at the ATNS conference. That's the Association for the Treatment of Neuroplastic Symptoms. We were both at that conference last year. And she did a great talk as a physical therapist about helping people feel safer in their bodies and bringing neuroplastic and TMS work into physical therapy. Oh, and then she and I hung out afterward. She's great. We would vibe. She was great. Um, and I get an email from her the next day after this podcast drops being like, dude, but physical therapy can totally be helpful. And I was like, oh my God, of course. I was thinking, of course, when I recorded that last episode about traditional physical therapy, which unfortunately is typically not very helpful for TMS and for neuroplastic conditions. That said, Nida is here to talk to us today about how a physical therapist who understands this stuff and who is trained in neuroplasticity, a physical therapist like that actually really can help you. Safety, safety, safety. It's all about safety. We're going to talk to Nida in a minute about feeling safe in your body. Let me just say, okay, I'm on a kick to get y'all to participate in this show and participate in legitimizing mind-body work for other people by the simple, easy act of leaving a star rating for this show. Even better if you want to leave a review for this show, that'd be awesome. But the simple, easy act of leaving a star rating for this show, you can do it right now. And I would appreciate that deeply. It's so nice to hear from you, hear your reactions. And I've been saying that we're at unfortunately we have less than 1% participation. People who have listened to this podcast, less than 1% have left a star rating. And I would just want to say I would really appreciate full participation from people who listen to the podcast regularly. Even if it's not a 5-star rating, that's okay. Rate it however you want to rate it. If you listen regularly, it would be really great to hear from you. Please scroll down, leave some stars, and without further ado, let's talk to Nida. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain podcast. I am here today with my friend and colleague, Nida Tansinsin. Welcome, Nida.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So glad you're here. So, Nida is a physical therapist, and we are here today to talk about how physical therapists can help with neuroplastic symptoms. I did an episode just recently, so if people listening have heard that one, a recent episode about the question is, why hasn't physical therapy helped me? What I neglected to say in that conversation or that episode is that there are actually a whole bunch of physical therapists who are trained in this work, and those are physical therapists who can really, really help you with this stuff. And Nida's going to talk to us today about how that works. Isn't that awesome that I can be like, oh wow, I need to include this, and I have a friend who actually you got in touch with me. I'm like, I didn't even call you. You got in touch with me, and we're like, let's do this. So thank you so much for reaching out to round out and supplement the conversation and make it more full.
Yeah, I had to kind of go, excuse me, I'm over here. We met and we talked for like an hour. So yeah, there's not a lot of us yet. It is definitely beginning to build. And I think part of that is the frustration in the physical therapy world with chronic pain. And just like, if you're a physical therapist, you're just like, That's a chronic pain diagnosis. Traditional medicine, you just like you don't wanna do it, and because we just didn't have answers, or we would kind of help people and see them for, like, a million visits, and then they would just maybe get okay, and I think mostly why they would maybe get okay using traditional methods is just therapeutic alliance and just feeling safe with someone and really kind of like, um, part of that, like, of course, of the placebo effect, which I tell people I am a placebo effect because I'm teaching you and I'm guiding you and I'm bringing you safety in that way, but it's changing neural pathway circuits. But in general, like, as a physical therapist, it was a struggle up until I learned this work. Now I'm like, "Chronic pain? I'm here. My name's Nida Tansinsin. I'm here to help guide you." And now I really
Yeah.
enjoy it, and I'm super fascinated by, no matter if you've had pain for decades or years or months, it's like, actually, yeah, I met a woman yesterday who was 62, and she told me she's had pain since she was 2 years old, and I don't know how you remember that, but in her mind and in her lens, she's had symptoms for that long, and I like, 15 years ago, Nita would have just dreaded, like, having that conversation because I would have just been
Yeah.
like, "I don't know what to do with you." So yeah, I had to,
Yeah.
like, message you and say, "Hey, excuse me. Let's chat," but totally get it. Totally get it. Yeah, for sure.
It's funny you say that because it wasn't until like when I record episodes, I like record it and then edit it, and then I always listen back to it on the day that it comes out. And so I recorded that one, edited it, didn't think anything of it, and then it wasn't until the day that I listened to it when it came out, it was like, oh my god. I totally neglected to say that like there actually are physical therapists who do this. So so glad that you are here. But okay,
Sure.
okay. So let's zoom out a little bit. Talk to us about your history of, as a physical
Mhm.
therapist, your, like, your evolution and how you got into doing this kind of work.
Sure. Yeah, so I started off well, number 1, I was an athlete. I played basketball in high school in this tiny D3 college for a year, and then I was always injured. I sprained my ankles all the time, so I was always in the training room. So I even say that's kind of when my rehab experience started was as a 16-year-old kid that was in the training room a lot. And then I decided to be an athletic trainer because that was my experience was just like, "Oh, I wanna be helping people and helping athletes." And I got my degree in athletic training in, um 2000. So I started there, and then I got my degree in physical therapy in 2005. And I really started off in sports medicine. I got to work in this cool clinic where there was like NBA players, NFL players, WNBA players, Major League Baseball players. So I was like in my dream job. My first job was my dream job. Um,
That is very
yeah,
cool. Wait, where was
it was in
this? Where was that?
Sacramento, California, so I got to work with the
Awesome.
the strength conditioning coach of the Sacramento Kings, and I really like, at that time, I'm like, "Oh my god, I don't know what I'm doing." I'm in a first-year grad, and I'm working with, like, the Kings players who at the time, they were, pretty darn good, but,
Wow.
I got to work with strength coaches, so that's where I started was that, athletic world, medical, biomechanical, working with strength coaches, and then I did that for a few years and then had to move back home because my dad got sick, and then I ended up, like, in acute care, like, postoperative, like, hips, joints, like, all the different surgeries, so I was there, like, right after people had a surgery, I would be there for that, and then I ended up doing, like, home health, skilled nursing, um gosh, like, so many different settings, and so when it came to chronic pain, obviously, I did outpatient physical therapy, and then I went away from it and then came back, and when I came back, I had been out of outpatient for, like, 7 years, and I was just like, "I'm not gonna know how to do any of this manual skills and, like, looking at people's bodies." And then when I got back into I was still good, and I was like, "How can I be good because I don't have the same skills?" Like, I don't remember, like, how I analyzed everybody's bodies back then. Um,
Hmm.
and I took one course, which was kind of like a brain course right before I got back into outpatient, and, in hindsight, it wasn't that great of a course, but at least gave me some
Hmm.
confidence to get back into outpatient. But when I went back, I was like, wow, I really like people still get better with me. Like, this is interesting because I was so worried about like I couldn't, analyze their foot and their gait and how they're walking. And I really didn't, I did some manual therapy. I did dry needling too for a bit and was still getting patients better. And then I ended up working at Kaiser, and Kaiser is a different beast, like traditional kind of PT, you're gonna sometimes, and maybe you experience this, you'd see patients twice a week for, like, endless amounts, like, sometimes months, sometimes
Mhm,
people tell me they'll see, PT for a year, but 2 to 3 times a week for a long time, and then when I got to Kaiser, people were being seen, like, once a week or once every 2 to 4 weeks, and I was like, "Well, how are they gonna get better?" Like, I have to do the massage, and I have to do joint mobilizations and all that stuff. And then
mhm.
and then I saw them get better, and I was like, "Well, that's interesting." And there's more and more research now about, like, the 2 to 3 times a week really isn't more beneficial than doing it, like, once every if anything now in hindsight, I think doing it less is better because, people get more independent and they do more things on their own. But also when you're doing anything 2 or 3 times a week, in my mind, and I remember a patient telling me something like this, like, you really think you're broken if you have to go into a place to get help 2 to 3 times a week, and I was like, "Oh my gosh, I didn't even think about that." And so
Yeah,
I
no, that totally,
yeah,
I mean, I've had that as a patient, like, where, acupuncture twice a week for a while, and I'm like, "Oh, can I make it the next 3 days before my next appointment?" And the appointment wouldn't even help that much because I wasn't in the right mindset, but yes, I'm totally with you, it makes you feel
yeah,
broken.
yeah, and then people tended to, like, rely on us more because they're like, I don't have to do that thing because I'm gonna see them, in a day, so day or 2." So they just don't, do things with their own body as much as they come to us, then they want us to kind of, analyze their bodies and make sure they're doing everything right. So I think the motivation, to be more independent when you see people, obviously, once every 2 to 4 weeks, it gets better. So that was kind of my experience, and I was like, "Wow, you really don't need to see people that often." And then I went back to, like, skilled nursing, and then I took Howard Schubiner and Charlie Merrill's course, like, right at the beginning of the pandemic, and then I lea
Well, let me sit with that. What inspired you to do that? Did you know about that? Like,
yes,
how did that
so
come across your radar?
because I was going through some of my own personal stuff, about 8
Totally.
years ago,
Yeah,
I was
isn't it?
going through
Yeah.
fertility, and I was going through, like, separation with my partner, and it was a really heavy time, and I remember sitting in the clinic typing up a note, and my whole body it just felt like a red light just, like, beamed over my whole body, and I remember hearing a patient talk, not taking in anything they were saying, like, I had no idea what was going on in my body, but all I thought was like, "Wow, that
Mhm.
was really weird and scary." And from that
Mm.
moment on,
Yeah.
well, I feel like it was kind of an anxiety attack, I don't totally know what the true definition of it was,
Sure.
but then I started, listening to Pain Reframed, which is kind of like the PT version of it, of just, like, the mind and the body connection, and I just started hearing this new lens, and so I got into listening to this new approach as I was gonna leave Denver, Colorado, because I had a different job, and my partner and I, figured things out, and we were gonna move. And so I started listening to that, and then my friend who I work with in Denver was like, "Hey, check out Charlie Merrill and Howard Schubiner's course," because Charlie was her
Mm.
classmate. And so then
Oh,
yeah,
cool.
I took that class, and then Kaiser was
And let me just say for people who don't know, Charlie Merrill is a physical therapist who
yes.
does neuroplastic work,
Yeah.
and, Howard Schubiner, I assume people listening to this podcast know who that is, but he's a doctor, like, at the top of the neuroplastic field.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Alright.
yeah, he's
Yeah, yeah.
kinda the GOAT. Um,
Yeah.
eh
It's a
he's
1000%.
yeah, yeah. So I took their class, and then it was like, "Hey, here's COVID. Take your computer home, and we don't know when you're gonna come back, and just treat people through your computer." So as a PT, I'm like,
Right, but be a physical therapist
"Wha"
online.
yeah, and I'm like, "Oh my god." So, okay, well, let's see how it goes. And so I remember it was like, if you've ever taken a course, like for a weekend course, Sean, right? Like the next Monday, you're trying to like do all the things that you taught were learned over that weekend, right?
Totally,
So
totally.
so I remember, like, literally being with this patient virtually, and her mom was with her, she was a teenager, and I'm, like, actually pulling out Howard Schubiner's, um, like, a couple of his clips, and I'm, like, trying to teach predictive coding, right? So think about this, like, you're coming to PT virtually, and your PT just goes right into predictive coding, like, what is this crazy ass bitch trying to talk to me about? And I remember literally, like, the patient's head, like, tilting, like, questioning, like, "What is she talking about?" But in my brain, I had to keep going because it was, like, what I learned,
Yeah,
and I
yeah,
remember that
totally.
being my first experience, and so I just wanna validate anybody that's learning to teach this, it can especially from the PT lens, it can feel so incredibly awkward, like, you don't really know what but that's the
Yes.
only way that you're gonna learn is you just keep messing up until you get really good at it. So it
Thank you for saying that because there are practitioners who listen to this podcast, and that is so real. I've had that experience too, where like patients are not expecting this,
at
and
all,
so
yeah.
it can land right, it can land in a really weird way. And same with psychotherapy, same. Like people are not quite expecting this. Except, I mean, there are people who come to me for this, and I'm sure you the same. So some people are expecting it,
Yeah,
but some people really are not.
yeah.
And it, yeah,
Yeah, and it's a
go
totally
on.
totally different conversation, like, so for me, I work Wednesdays
Mhm.
with, Dr. Kennedy, and it's all the mind body stuff virtually, and then the other days of the week, I work in traditional outpatient settings. So in that setting, like, no one has any idea what I'm gonna say, about this mind body stuff. So anyways, going back to that
Well,
story.
and let me just to say,
Yeah,
I went for physical therapy for my hip for this is a few years. I mean, this is many years back. Maybe I don't know, but it was way well before I found out about TMS and neuroplastic
mhm.
healing, and I had my physical I mean, they were like, "Well, the problem isn't that your legs are different lengths, the problem is that your hips are all jammed up, and the problem is this and that, and look, this leg does this and that leg does that." I'm like,
Oh,
"That's your problem right there."
guilty,
If
guilty,
if
I've
s
totally said those things, yes, yeah.
if someone and then I believed that, I was like, "Wow, my hips are real messed up, and it feels really messed up." So, like, yeah, of
Yes,
course it's really messed up.
totally.
And if you had been in that physical therapy office saying something about the brain and about predictive coding, I would have listened. Like, I really would
You
have.
oh,
So
yeah,
you so
okay, most people are like,
you're
"What are
doing
you?"
good work.
Yeah. So yeah, so I started teaching it and it's and I through the pandemic, and I was like, "Oh my god, people are getting better just by
Yeah.
teaching them." I mean, obviously exercise because you have to throw that in there because that's what patients are expecting, but I always
Mhm.
dove into, like, your mind and body have a connection, it's no longer frou-frou, it's if the brain produces danger over
Yeah.
safety, and danger can be anything, and I mean anything, family, finances, work, like, you can tell I have this whole spiel that I give patients, and I've kinda learned to do that, you know, and it's stuck in my brain, and Camille, who actually Camille Thoman, she's the one who told me,
Yeah.
like, "Hey, Sean had this thing, you need to connect with him," so that's how I got connected with you again, is, like, message him and talk to him about therapy, um, but it's just, like, I was able to figure out, like, this kinda whole new approach, and it was just I haven't turned back since then, basically, it's just been such a beautiful thing, but she connected me.
Well, let me go
No,
ahead,
go
go
ahead,
ahead.
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, since you're talking about your little spiel, do you wanna give us a little bit of the
Okay, oh,
spiel,
yeah?
like a sample?
It's so
That would be
well,
great.
yeah, and I've done it for like 6 years now, and then Camille and Camille's like my kind of somatic body coach. I don't know what her title is, but she does amazing things.
Well, yeah, let me just say for people who don't know Camille is a communication specialist, right,
Yeah, and
who, slash
she's like a film
go
director
ahead.
too, and she's just this
Yeah.
amazing human that teaches you how to connect at, like, a deeper level is what I kind of describe her as, and she talked to me about, like, teaching from the heart instead of teaching from all the books and all the podcasts and all the things, because when you're in the outpatient PT world, it's almost like more of a fight, I think, even than you, is, like, people just want they want the biomechanical explanation, and I'm just like, "No, there's actually so much more, especially if it's chronic pain, to how pain really works." So I kind of changed that spiel just within the last, like, whatever, kind of month or 2. But
Oh,
it's kind of
awesome.
like, you know, pain is produced in the brain 100% of the time. It's if the brain senses danger over safety, and danger, again, could be anything. Family, finances, work, thinking about just in general, chronic pain is 25% of the population. That's more than heart disease, diabetes, and cancer put together. So there's something that we're
Damn.
doing wrong in Western medicine. And then I will go through, like, depending on their injury, if it's like a knee, if it's a back, I will go through, like, the research on MRIs, not just for low back pain, because everyone kind of knows now the Brzezinski study in 2015 and how you can see in my age group, I'm 47, 50% of the population has a bulging disc with no pain. Degenerative disc disease, which sounds so scary, it starts in your 20s asymptomatically. But if you look at, like,
Mm.
there's, like, studies done on knees and, like, meniscal tears being common, and, arthritis, even stage 4, the most severe arthritis, can be in patients that are, and often are in patients that are asymptomatic. rotator cuff tear. Like all of these things are just starting to pop up, and it's just now we're just going, hey, psst, hey, actually, that MRI doesn't really help with chronic pain. It helps with major
Yeah.
things like if you do have a fracture, if there's a tumor or something like that. But for explaining chronic symptoms, MRIs are, if anything, more of a nocebo effect, and they've done research on that,
Yeah.
where people read their MRI and then they have more pain afterwards, right?
Yeah.
That those things are so impactful. So I literally just the first session is like listening to a patient, listening to their story. Then I just ask them, so what was happening in your life around the time of the injury, or have you had just kind of this chronic stress, or I say things like death anniversaries, and I tell people it's all subconscious. It's not your fault. You're not
Mhm.
causing yourself to have pain, but that
Mhm.
understanding what you've been through and what you're going through now matter in how your body feels. I think it's that people intuitively know that, but like Western medicine's like, "Nah, but we got the surgery and we got this injection and we have this MRI, and that thing on that MRI right there, or that your leg length discrepancy," which again, I used to tell people, "Oh, it's your leg's longer than the other." And now we know ninety
Mm.
percent of the population has a leg length discrepancy, again, and
Hmm.
asymptomatically. Yeah.
Super. Well, you know what? I'm part of the 10% because apparently I don't. My hips are just jacked up.
Well, I'm gonna
Although they're not actually jacked up. They're
yeah.
but go
Well, I'm
ahead.
gonna have to assess you because maybe that's not true. But if that's your belief, again, that's a danger signal that can
Right.
continue to produce that alarm system. So, obviously I go through a physical exam and then just notice if does that leg length discrepancy really is that really what's causing a symptom? And we go through that
Totally.
and we go through it contextually like, "Hey, how come you could."
Well, and let me just butt in to say for the audience, so you know what happened with me. My physical therapist, he like lifted. I was like laying on a
Mhm,
table. He lifted up my legs and was like, "No, your legs are the same
mhm.
length." So the reason why it seems that one is
Oh,
not the
yes.
one is long and one is short is because your hips are not like even or
Mhm,
whatever.
mhm.
And so I'm sure that's true. My hips are not 100% even. I'm sure that's true. And that has proved to be a normal
Yeah,
abnormality for sure because my hip pain was not solved by physical manipulation,
yeah.
and it's doing this work that has improved that pain
Sure. Yeah,
significantly. Just to make that
yeah.
clear for
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, and I just say, when we think about patients and their symptoms, it's again clarifying that it's not in your head, is that there is real muscle tension. There is real, kind of rotation of the hips. There is real swelling. There is real joint hypomobility. But when it's chronic and there was no specific injury and it's been, going on and on and on, is that's secondary to the pain experience. So the brain was like, "Ah, danger," like, whatever, my dog died or the death anniversary or I fucking hate my boss. That danger signal came on, your brain went into this fight or flight, then the muscles then there was a pain, then the muscles are, like, protecting and contracting. So that's what happens because of the pain experience. So you can fix it, quote, unquote, "fix the massage, through acupuncture, through all these different things," but then it just goes right back if you're still pissed at your boss or if you still don't feel safe at home or for the trans community like you and I talked about before just briefly is they don't feel safe in their bodies in this moment because the world is also not letting them feel safe, particularly our
Yeah.
administration, right? And
Right.
that's a real
Right.
pain, that's a real guarding, and so I can, again, help people by, yeah, that stretch is gonna kinda help you make it feel looser, but ultimately, it's dealing with what really, really makes your brain feel like it's in danger. And to me, that's so important. Lorimer Mosley, I don't know if you know of his work, but he wrote the
I
book,
don't know.
Explain Pain, and he wrote it with, David Butler. So it's David Butler and Lorimer Mosley are kind of like the gurus of the PT world and Adrian Lowe. They don't do any of the
Cool.
emotional stuff that, the AET, the PRT, those type of treatments, but he does really great research, and his saying is anything, and I mean anything that makes your brain think it needs protecting can dial pain up. And anything, and I mean anything that makes your brain feel like it doesn't need protection, like education, like talking to Sean, any of those things that make you feel like you need less protecting, turn it down. And that's why I go through that
Yeah.
whole, objective evaluation, look at all the different things and explain the science behind like MRIs and imaging and how you
Mhm.
can look at an x-ray with someone with mild arthritis and someone with severe arthritis and you can't predict who's in more pain because
Mhm.
it's all of these other factors. So,
Mhm.
yeah.
Well, and let me just say, I'm just thinking, like, how helpful that is to have a physical therapist like yourself say that to a
Oh my
patient.
gosh, yeah.
Because when people come to me and I'm like, "Well, it's obviously about your emotions and blah, blah, blah," it's like maybe they'll kind of believe that, but there's also, like, an added kind of question mark of like, "Well, of course you think it's about emotions, like, you're a
Right, that's your thing.
therapist."
Yeah, right.
Right, exactly. So, like, I'm just thinking of I can, like, picture the, physical therapy office that I used to go to, and this was so many years ago, I, like, since imperatives sort of wax and wane, this was so long ago,
Mhm, mhm,
but it was an office if you had been there
mhm.
and we had a conversation where you told me about all of this and you, like, sort of debunked, like, don't take the because that was the X-ray that they were looking at, "Don't take the X-ray seriously in this way that you are." If you had said that, I really would I used to walk back to my apartment from that office. I can just picture myself on the walk home, like, thinking about, like, "Oh, maybe she's right. Maybe I should read a book about this.
Right.
Maybe I
Yeah, yeah,
should,
yeah.
like, think about, like, why do I not feel safe?
Mhm.
Wow, is that what my hip pain is really about?" Like,
Yeah.
the way you're spreading this information from the belly of the
Yeah.
beast is so cool to hear about.
Yeah, what is really interesting is I've worked with a lot of, like, mental health therapists, and it's either
I
like
bet because we need
yeah,
help, yeah, us with this stuff big
and it
time,
is
yeah. We're
amazing. It's amazing. They're either, like, totally on board or they're like, "Fuck you, Nita. I do this
yeah,
work, like, I know what I'm doing,"
yeah,
and then they don't
yeah.
come back, and I'm like, "I
That makes
swear."
so much
Yeah,
sense.
right. But I had a patient, she's a mental health therapist, and, she what did she do? She had a fracture in an ankle, and it was kind of like they were kinda debating if it was a just an ankle sprain, but a fracture, and they couldn't tell if it was an old fracture or a new fracture, but I had her this week and she's just doing amazing, and she just totally gets it. There's no judgment on herself, like, she's not shameful of it. She had this one specific injury, and I'm teaching her, like, what you tell yourself matters. Like, when she's trying to get back to pickleball, and she's, like, in her 60s, and we did this, like, are you familiar with, like, a agility drill, like a ladder drill where they put this ladder on the ground, and then you're putting your feet in it and trying to run really fast? So we're at that point where
Totally.
we can do that, and I look at people and how they're moving. So I took out the ladder and I saw her, like her it's like her breath was like, "Oh, girl, what we doing?" Like this we were just
So, like,
walking, like,
that,
yeah, you could
yeah,
see it, and so the first few things were kind of easy for her, and she was going, and then there was one I knew was a little bit harder because 'cause you're jumping a little bit, and then she got right in front of it, and you'll see this all the time, Sean, like, as a clinician, is there's a pause, like, when people are scared, there's a pause and a thought and like, you could see that fight or flight response kick in,
mhm,
and it's just so fun now, in the PT world to notice these, like, short little things people do when they're in fear, and so she does it,
mhm,
and I'm like, "I see your fear," and again, I wouldn't do this to everyone because
mhm,
she is a therapist, so I said, "Well, let's do it this way." And I said, "Let's do it again, the same thing, and I want you to say a bunch of bad things about yourself, like you're old and your ankle's never gonna get better and blah, blah, blah."
mhm,
And so she does it, and I was like, "How does that feel in your body?" And of course, it didn't feel amazing. And then I had her do the same
right,
thing, like, "I'm awesome, I'm amazing, I'm strong, look at me, I can move my feet back and forth." And it's just that little tweak made her move differently. It was, like, lighter and
yeah,
bouncier, and to me, I'm like, "This is so fucking cool that you can just tell
yeah,
somebody how to switch that, how to just switch that quick little mentality, and it literally changes the way you move." And I tell people, if you don't believe in it, think about that scared five-year-old child that, like, fell on the playground, and the parents like, "Oh my god, are you okay, little Johnny?" And little Johnny for that split second thought he was okay, and then his parents freaking out, and then you just see him start crying and probably have pain because his parents freaking out. And then and then the
mhm,
little Johnny who falls on the ground And for me, when my son would fall on the ground, if I saw him get like a little bit like he was going to go into the cry, I would fall on the ground with him and go, "Woo, that was fun! Like, let's get on up, come on!" And it
Cute.
was just that one moment of like the kid's going to check, "Are you scared? Should I be scared?" And then once they
Mhm.
feel safe, then it's like they just keep going. Obviously, I'm going to look to see if he did anything wrong or damaged himself.
Sure.
But the way
Sure.
you respond to a symptom when it happens is either gonna dial it up or dial it down. Are you gonna respond to it with fear and worry, or are you gonna respond to it like, "Oh my gosh, I'm okay. I'm safe. I got this."
Yeah.
And then your nervous system's like, "Cool, let's go."
Let me ask you this, like, because of course a lot of people who have neuroplastic
Mhm.
conditions and TMS, physical therapy doesn't help them, and
Yeah,
the physical
yeah.
therapist they see, like, doesn't have the tools to help them. So, will you, like, just, like, spell this out for our listeners, like, why is that? And what can you since you know what you know and have the training you
Mhm.
have and the experience you have, what can you do that's different from, like, I don't know if, like, I don't know, like a PT that doesn't have this information?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm just trying to think about the old me and then kinda the current me. Is
Cool.
is really like, yeah, I mean, you can look at someone and break down their movements and see what's tight and see what's guarded and see where obviously, you touching them where they're having pain. But as a physical therapist is again, we can be a placebo effect where we can be like, "Oh yeah, this is the muscle that's tight and guarded because of you're so protected and kind of on this high alert." And this is obviously after I've talked to them about like the body being stuck in fight or flight and they've already kind of told me their stressors and I had a guy just yesterday whose wife for the last 2 years has gotten all these different surgeries and he's really worried about her and like all of a sudden his shoulder pain came out of nowhere, but it's like really listening to their stories and being able to like connect with them. I mean, sometimes that first whole session is just about hearing their stories, and then at the last 5 minutes, it's like, "Okay, this is how pain works." And I always ask them, "Are you open to a new lens?" I learned that from Charlie Merrill. It was like, "Are you opening to hear another reason why you're having pain?" And pretty much like
Nice.
I mean, everyone is open to that idea, and then how many people actually take that in? I would have thought it would have been like 50-50, but it is I mean, most people take it in like 90%. I would say people are totally fine with it. They
Awesome.
get I think now that mental health has been less stigmatized because we're all messed up right now because the world is so messed up. So I think people are really
Right.
open to like, yeah, the world is really crazy, especially my senior patients that are like, wait, we fought for all this equality and now they're watching it on the news like they're back in their time where they really had to fight for this. Um,
Mm.
but it's like connecting and listening to them, listening to their stories, connecting their stressors to their pain, and then doing the objective assessment and giving them another option of it's not the leg length discrepancy that like randomly came out of nowhere, or maybe you've had that your whole life that's causing the pain. I mean, you can even say there's a leg length discrepancy, but then say, 90% of the population has a leg length discrepancy. And maybe yours is because your hips are tight because of the protect and the guarded response of your body when it's stuck in this fight or flight
Mhm.
position. Um,
Mhm.
or and so it's like really definitely that first session is like let them tell the story, maybe give them even if it's like a 5-minute snippet, and then I send them a podcast. Like maybe I'd send them something from you, like explaining it, and then I say, come back and let me know what resonates with you. And on that second session, I say, hey, did you listen to that podcast? How did it feel? And again, most people will resonate with it, and people will come back and be like totally me, or they're like, "Yeah, I could totally see how it could be a combination of both." And then there's, like, the maybe 10% who's like, "No, that's not me." And then when they do that, then I kind of, like, step back from where I wanna be, and I take them through more that older Nita version of just, like, explaining to them a little bit more maybe in their what they feel safe with, which is the biomechanical, kind of biomedical model, and then I slowly trick them into I'm joking. I'm joking when I say trick, but then I slowly get them to realize, like, "Hey, you're doing great, but then you went to your parents' house and your back flared up. What do you think about
Yeah.
that? Like,
Yeah.
how does that?" And then
Yeah,
kinda
yeah, you're
connect
you're
those
helping them
things.
make the connection.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, right,
So
yeah,
as a
totally.
PT, like, you can still do, again, the whole physical assessment, but stop scaring the crap out of people. Like, let them know again that these muscle tension type things that you're finding are real, but they're not dangerous. They're more the overprotection and guarding of your nervous system, and that, "Hey, yes, the exercises, they can help because we're gonna help get more fluidity and movement in the body, but we're really just helping you be less scared of the pain. That should be the main
Right.
goal as a physical therapist is make them be less scared of that symptom and understand that pain doesn't equal damage, it equals your danger alarm signal, which your danger alarm signal is connected to all the life crap that you're going through or have been through. And just understand that's not a frou-frou connection. It is a real, research-driven connection that the mind and the body are connected, and what you experience in life can be expressed through your body.
Period.
Yeah.
Folks, you just
Mic
heard it
drop.
from a physical therapist. Exactly, that's right. This is coming from a physical therapist. The pain what did you just say? Pain is not about damage,
Mhm.
it is about your
Protection.
danger.
Yeah, your danger alarm
Exactly.
signal.
It's a danger
Yeah,
signal, exactly, and it's not frou-frou. That is
yeah,
what pain is.
yeah, and like I was saying earlier, when you and I talked a little bit before this was like the marginalized communities in general, the LGBTQ community, which, again, I'm a part of, is when I was looking at statistics for chronic pain, and I'm sure it's like all chronic conditions, but specifically like the trans community is 1.5 to 2 times more likely to have chronic pain. And I'm pretty much guaranteeing you that it's gotten worse since the current
I'm
administration,
sure.
right? I had a patient that
Yeah.
I just started seeing, an 18-year-old like trans man, and he's been having back pain for like 2 years now, and he talked about how one day, and this was after, again, I gave the whole explanation how the brain and the body work. And he's like, "Oh," he goes, "The day I went to work, the day after, Trump got elected, my pain was getting worse. By the time I got home, I was wailing and rolling on the ground in severe pain because his body was hurting so much." And it's like, because it felt even less safe than it already was in the beginning, it just kind of like he was like, "Oh." So again, it's just like little things like that. And Howard Schubiner, when I was talking to him, he told me that a patient is gonna have a clickbait moment, and I think that was
Mm,
one of his clickbait moments of like, "Oh,
mhm.
yeah, I felt in severe." And remember, it's not actual danger, which again, it kind of is unfortunate for the trans community, but it's the perception of danger, the perception of your boss, like, maybe not liking what you did, for the perception of, is your partner still mad at you? Like, all of those different things are the perception of danger, which leads to a real pain experience. So, yeah,
1,000%.
yeah.
Yep, 1,000%. Well, let me say, so I'm kind of hearing, like, what you can do as a physical therapist who's trained in neuroplasticity is you can help people feel safe in their
Mhm.
bodies and feel
Yep,
safe
yep.
feel safe
Moving,
moving their
yeah,
bodies.
yeah.
Whereas a physical therapist who's not trained in this, their mentality might be more like, "I can try to fix your body," or
Yes.
is
Yeah,
it more like
yeah.
that?
Well, first of all, I can fix your body, which isn't a great message 'cause what I'm saying is your body is not actually broken. Is it tight? Is it
Period.
tense? Is it guarded? Yes, but are you structurally sound? Yes. Yeah. And it's, yeah, I mean, from the physical therapy lens, I teach the Twin Peaks model, which I'm so grateful, again, Charlie Merrill taught me that, but that is, kind of the idea that you don't need to push through the pain, because when I teach people about the intensity behind how you do movement or exercise, or really anything, when it comes to like express writing, journaling, meditation, is you don't push through it. Because think about, again,
Right.
I always use this analogy of this scared 5-year-old kid. If you told, "Hey, little Johnny, go play out in the dark. There's nothing out there. It's actually really safe. Go play in the dark." And little Johnny's like, "Okay, fuck. I'm gonna go play out in the dark." But he's like playing out in the dark like this, and he's like all freaked out, right? He's
Terrified.
totally terrified,
Right.
but he's trying to tell himself, like, "I'm safe. My mom told me I'm safe." And then that's the push through pain model, right? So that's
Yeah.
like people doing the exercises are like, "Oh god, like Nita told me to do this." And it's like, I tell people, I call it the ugly pain face. When I see them do it, is
Yes.
like this, they'll make this ugly pain face, and they're like, and I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, stop doing that to yourself. Stop pushing through the pain," because again, what does that do to the brain? The brain is sensing more and more danger, because anything in life, in exercise, again, a relationship that you have to fight through drives up that alarm system. But let's say we take little
Mm.
Johnny and we put him in the room, we turn the lights on, we lock the door, we're like, "Johnny, stay there, little kid, you're gonna be fine because nothing is going on in here." As soon as Johnny opens that door, he's like fuck, I'm super scared too because I haven't done anything except for stayed here. So it's not if it hurts, don't do it. Like maybe acutely, like the first day or two, like, yeah, just chill out. Like just let your body relax. But in order to get out of pain, you have to move through it, sore but safe. So touch into it, and sore but safe, tap or nudge into the pain. And I just tell people, just say hi to the pain. Just like if your hand hurts, and I know people can't see me, but I'm like opening and closing my hands. If it hurts at a certain range, understand that pain doesn't equal damage, equals danger. So touch into the
Mhm.
pain on purpose, say hi to it, come out of it. Say hi to it, come out of it, touch or nudge into it a little bit. So by the time you're done, it should actually feel a little bit sore. And when you're a little bit sore, that's telling your brain you're desensitizing it, but you still feel safe, right?
Mhm.
So if you have a flare up
Beautiful.
like the next day, like that lasts like longer than 24 to 48 hours, the Twin Peaks model, which is again a explain pain Laura Mosley explanation, is understanding a flare up is like underneath the line of actual tissue damage. So tissue damage is above the flare up. So if you have a flare up, that doesn't mean you damaged your tissue. And this is for chronic fatigue. This is for pain. Is it doesn't mean that you damaged your tissue when you have that like post exertional malaise or the really extreme fatigue, but you did too much for your nervous system and brain to feel safe, and you just have to respect it, right?
Mhm.
And just tell your
Mhm.
body, like,
Yeah.
"Okay, I get it. I get it, brain. I get what you're doing. You're flaring me up because
Mhm.
whatever subconsciously got really scared." And it's to understand the way you respond to the flare up is what's most
Right.
important. Are you going, "Oh my god,
Right.
fuck, I am really broken. Oh my gosh, this is really terrible."
Right. And I'll never do that again
Yes,
ever.
yeah, and again, I'm sure
Right.
with your chronic symptoms, you probably fell into that flare up where you're like, "Oh my god, the PT made me do that thing, and, like, that was a terrible idea."
Right,
Yeah,
right, right. I can never do this exercise or that stretch ever again.
yeah,
Wow, because that was so bad. Not the right
yeah,
response. A
yeah.
natural
Right,
response, but
yes,
not
yeah,
the
yeah,
right response.
and the PT, the old PT Nita would have been like, "Oh my gosh, I totally, flared up your tissue, I did a really bad job," and I would get
Yeah.
scared, but now I know, like, oh,
Yeah.
flare-ups are actually, like, your body, like, learning to trust you again. So if you can respond to that flare up or that pain with this more compassion and curiosity, but again, going back all the way to the pain psychoeducation of this pain is real, but it's not dangerous.
Yeah.
And then again, maybe give it a day or two off, go back to the routine, and maybe at a little less intensity if you need to. But go back to it
Mhm.
to show scared little Johnny that, hey, actually, it's still okay. I know we still don't feel safe, but let's go back at it again. And each time you're just like rewiring it. And then understanding that it's not going to be this perfect world where you're just like every day, oh, I walked 10 minutes and then it was 12 minutes and then it was 15 and then I
Mm.
went 30 minutes and it went great. It's not like that because emotions and stress aren't like that. We aren't just like happier every single freaking day. And that's why
Right.
that alarm system, again, as we've talked about, and this is what your work is about, is is affected by all the things, work and family and social injustice and all those things. That's what's making, or fear, really fear is what's making it fuel and go up and down and up and down. So once you can convince that kid over and over and over, that scared part of you, you're actually okay. You're actually okay. Is that alarm starts to just dial down more and more and more.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So will you just briefly tell us so people know what is the Twin Peaks model?
The Twin Peaks model is an explanation of how pain works. So there's like a little drawing I always pull out in my session. So it's remembering that pain is actually meant to do what? To protect us, right? Like putting our hand in hot
Yeah.
water, or when we fall and do have an injury, pain is like, hey, you fell and you hurt yourself, and it's going to give you pain in order to protect you. Because again, if you injured yourself, you got to rest it, right? Just a little bit, and so that 3 months of tissue healing time goes by and you're still having pain, you're really looking at this neuroplastic condition. But so it's just that basis of when your nervous system is regulated, that your alarm volume for pain should be at like a 2 out of 10 because you need it, otherwise you're gonna burn your hand or you're gonna keep playing after you're injured. So I always use the analogy, and I can't remember the psychologist I stole it from, but it's the hearing aid analogy of pain, right? Oh gosh, I'm so mad I'm spacing her name. But anyway, she talked about how think about your pain as a hearing aid and you need it turned up to a 2 out of 10 to hear, right? It's just like anxieties. We
Mhm.
need pain, we need anxiety, we need fear, all for survival, right? Walking down a dark alley, you need anxiety. and we need pain again for the hot pan. So just teaching
Mhm.
people that alarm should be like at a 2 out of 10. But with life experiences, life stressors, that volume knob can just get more and more and more and more sensitized. So
Mhm.
so when you have pain, and again, it's this chronic thing, and your pain goes off, is now your pain alarm is going off with, instead of hot water, now it's going off with lukewarm water or cold water. So again, the alarm is real, the pain is real, but it's because your alarm system is so sensitized. So what that model shows you is, because now usually people are doing less and less, is not only has your alarm system got more sensitive, but now your tissue tolerance has dropped because now you're more deconditioned, it's more sensitized, there's not as much blood flow. So the gap between when you're having pain and when you're actually damaging your tissue is much bigger on the side of when you're having chronic pain. So that's why not
Mm.
only can you lean into the pain, you have to in order to get back to the other side where you're going off with a 2 out of 10. And
Mm.
again, it's the tap or nudge into the pain, the sore but safe, and that's all I tell people. I don't tell them it's like it has to be a 2 out of 5 out of 10 and then a 6 out of 7, because it's really the concept of what does your brain feel is sore but safe? What does your brain
Mm.
feel like is tapping or nudging into the pain? That's so
Mhm.
uniquely different between every single person, because every single person has different life experiences and different stressors.
Mhm.
So whatever makes you feel sore but safe, makes you feel like you're tapping or nudging to it, that's the answer. It's not what I say.
There we
It's not
go.
how far I want you to stretch. It's like, how far
Yeah.
does your body wanna go till it feels like, "Oh, I'm a little sore," but you're not freaking out at the same time that you're doing too much. And it's I also just tell people, like, if you're already doing the activity and your brain's like, "Oh my god, am I gonna pay for this later? I gotta be really careful because then I can't go to Judy's party, and then the rest of the day I'm gonna be really out for everything else." If your brain is already going there, to me, that doesn't feel safe. Even if it's the tiniest of amount, and I tell people, even if it's like 3 minutes of walking and you're so annoyed that you can only walk 3 minutes, then you gotta just start there, because if that pain riles up, then that's just gonna drive that system. So be okay with it being very little, and just be compassionate and kind to yourself in that moment where you're just trying to find where your little 5-year-old brain feels safe. And that's it.
Yeah,
Like,
I love
yeah,
that. I love yeah, that's such a nice way to, like, simplify it, like, we're just trying to find where your little five-year-old brain feels safe.
yeah, yeah.
I'm thinking as we sort of start to wind down a little bit, I'm thinking, about, like, what are the ways that physical therapists actually can help
Mhm,
people
mhm,
with neuroplastic conditions? And one that's really standing out to me, I think especially for myself as a mental health therapist, a way that physical therapists can help that I really can't or can help less so
mhm.
is like the actually helping you really understand that you can feel safe in your body and you can
Yeah,
do like an evaluation of someone's body and you're trained in like the research and the you know the studies better than I as you're
yeah.
naming these I'm like I need to like do that'd be great to do more like an episode maybe on like a lot of these kinds of studies 'cause it's so
Oh,
important
yeah, yeah,
like you have an understanding of this stuff and you can teach patients about this stuff and you can help people really feel safe in their
yeah.
bodies and that is huge anything else that you would say you know like if we're talking to people like who are thinking like can physical therapy really help me
Yeah.
given now that I know what's really going on with me anything else that you would say
That's such a good question, because obviously there's a lot of really well-intentioned physical therapists trying to do the right things. But if
yeah
they keep telling you things that are wrong with your body, I mean, I would even just bring it up like, "Hey, I've been listening," as a patient, I would give the physical therapist a podcast, like maybe something that made them believe in it, and just say, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And if the PT's like, "Oh, that sounds ridiculous," then you definitely need to get rid of that one, because more and more and more, it's it's gonna happen in the PT world, because we cannot deny that chronic pain is getting worse and worse. And they've actually just, I think just this year, the APTA approved for us to do more of the emotional work with patients, because we have to. And,
good
and
yes
yeah, I mean,
yes because it goes
even
together
if it's
yes
just like
yes
asking like patients, like, what have you been through? Like, when did your pain start? What was going on? Um,
hmm
but the reason,
Well, let me just say it's so cool to hear you say that because for me it's the opposite. For therapists, it's like the thing we have to do is like feel empowered to like work with the body and know that like if you're having a
Mm,
pain in your body, like that might be emotional. It's not outside of our purview. And it's funny to hear you with the exact opposite.
yeah,
Like, like the emotions are not outside of your purview. It's like we're all doing
yeah.
this same stuff, just coming at it from a different
Yeah.
lens. But yeah,
Well,
yeah, go
and,
on.
I was when I taught at this conference, it wasn't just PTs, it was, body workers, talk therapists and coaches,
Mhm,
is I just even just teach people to just watch how people move when they do the really scary thing. So if, like, someone bends over, or they tell you, like, "Oh, I'm really scared to bend over." Have them bend over and then notice, like, again, sometimes they'll just do a pause and be like, okay, because they know that it's the thing that's gonna hurt, so they kinda have to, like, pump themselves up for it, and then they bend over really slowly and guarded, and then you just point out to them,
mhm.
like, "Did you see how guarded you are? Like, what are you thinking when you're bending over?" And patients are like, "Oh, I know it's gonna hurt," and I'm like, "We gotta start there." Like, let's start with, like,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
thoughts because that's the whole predictive coding, so I would go into all that, but, like, the anticipation of movement. So but people, they used to always ask me like, "Nita, what's the perfect exercise for back pain?" And if you're a physical therapist, whether or not you do this work, you get so annoyed when some people ask you questions like that and you're like having lunch. But but there's not, even though I have thousands of exercises in my head and that is my job, is there's not a perfect exercise to fix pain. The perfect exercise, well, I guess there is kind of, in my opinion now, is the one that brings you joy, the one that brings you safety, and you can use these concepts of sore but safe, tap or nudge into it.
Mhm.
The reason PT, even if they're not doing this work, can help is because they give a list of exercises that the PT is telling the patient is safe. And that's what gets them started in like, this movement is okay. So that's kind of, again, the way that even a traditional PT can help is you're giving them some freaking guidance on what's like, yeah, go for the walk. And even if you do have pain, like just nudge into it a little bit and come back. So even if you don't have all the skills like PRT and EAT, it's just like teaching people that you don't have to do things perfectly in order to not have pain. You don't have to have the perfect flexibility. You don't have to be lifting weights every single day. Is it's more about feeling the safety in your body in all the ways, in movement, and in life, and connecting those things all together.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, this is making me think. I think it's really powerful what you're saying about like if you have for people listening, if you have a PT who is scaring you,
Yeah.
you can feel empowered to get rid of that
Yes.
PT and
Yeah.
find a different
Yeah.
one.
Yeah. Because
And I'm thinking, oh yeah, go ahead.
Well, because, the most important thing for patients when they've done it research-wise is therapeutic alliance, is how well
Mhm.
do you get along with your patient? Because that is, like, the first step to healing is that they just trust you. So just go with your gut feeling, like, do you trust them,
Yeah.
or are they, scaring you into doing more and more and more, exercise to fix yourself? But, yeah, I would definitely like, if the therapist hasn't talked about, the mind and the body, and because they're now teaching it in schools, like, at the very surface, like PT schools, they're teaching some pain neuroscience, so they have to know at least a little bit about it, at this point.
Mhm. Mhm. Cool, cool. And I'm thinking about a chiropractor who I used to go to for my hip, and again, this was a long time ago before I knew about like this work, and he was all I would go in there and I'd be like, "Oh, I mean, it hurts again, like, maybe it's a little better than it was last week, but, like, it's still not good." And, months of the you know what I
Months
mean?
and
Like,
months.
I was a chronic pain patient, you know
Mhm,
what I mean? It was
mhm.
not getting better. But it would fluctuate and whatnot, and it felt nice to go, like, that made me feel sort of like I'm doing something for my hip,
Yeah.
and, he would always be like, because I really had the belief at that time, like, well, this is just a weak point in my body. Like, if I'm gonna get hurt or if I'm gonna have pain, it's gonna be here
Mhm,
in my hip.
mhm.
And he really would talk to me like, oh, you don't know that. Like, someday you might not have this pain someday. Like, you could really recover from this. And when he would say that, I'd be like, that's funny. Like, I've had this since age 19.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, yeah.
so he really was. I mean,
Mm,
when I look back at that, I don't he didn't give me enough information to really feel safe and to really understand, but he was trying, and
yeah,
he was trying to help me feel safe and help me feel like healing was possible. I was failing because I didn't believe it,
yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, so many clinicians I think are so well-intentioned, and, I tell people all the time, there's a lot of good PTs and a lot of good chiropractors. There's a lot of really bad chiropractors, a lot of really bad PTs.
Yeah.
But
Mental health therapist the same,
yeah, yeah,
so
and it's
yeah.
just like to me, patients I mean, there are patients that I've had that have continued to see a chiropractor for decades and decades and decades, and I'll ask them, like, or if people that are just seeing them actively and they're coming to see me, I'm like, "So what is a chiropractor telling you it's wrong?" And it's usually like, "Oh, well, they pulled up this X-ray and they told me my spine was off," and that is to me, a dangerous chiropractor. If they go straight into, like, explaining, like, "Your spine is off," like, get out of there as fast as you can. Um,
All right. You heard it,
yeah,
folks.
yeah.
You heard it.
Or if they're like, "Yeah, come see me 2 or 3 times a week for the next, like, 8 weeks." Like that it's a good business model, but
Right.
but when I also ask patients that have been seeing, again, chiropractors, and again, not to, like, badmouth chiropractors again, there's really good ones, real bad, but as I ask them often, like, "What is the chiropractor saying is wrong with you?" Like, I don't really know. They just like, I just go in there, and then normally, if the chiropractor treatments are working, it works for, like, a day or maybe 2, or maybe even just
Yeah.
in the time that they're at the clinic, and then they're back again because their nervous system are regulated, they're back to normal. And so but they just keep going and going and going because there's that placebo effect of it works for a little bit, right? Because they feel safe in their bodies, it's turning down like you said, you're taking the time to take care of yourself, so your nervous system's like, "Oh, we're at chiropractor and we're being safe, and this guy's gonna fix me."
Mhm.
But if it keeps coming back over and over and over and over again, it's like, are they really helping you? Just
Yeah.
you have to
Right.
really get to a point
Right.
where you've seen them, like, for I worked at a clinic one time, and I picked up a patient from this one therapist that I did not like, and it was, like, the
Mm.
80th visit. I'm like, "What are you doing? Like, what are"
Yeah.
but he had learned that he needs to get the massage and he needs
Yep.
to get the manipulation in order for his arthritis to feel better because no one can change my arthritis. That's what he told me. And I'm like, well, also 80 visits of therapy in 1 year is not, it's making you reliable on it. But
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I mean, again, if you're going for like a million visits, that's a red light in its own.
As we're coming to a close, any final pieces of advice that you have from a physical
Oh gosh,
therapist
yeah.
to this
To this
audience?
audience. Yeah. Oh gosh. I've never, no, that's funny. I've been doing this for a while and no one's really just straight up asked me that. I would just say the advice is like, you know, the whole concept of like, if you're in pain, lean into a little bit, sore but safe, right? Tap or nudge into it. Be kind to yourself as you're learning to rewire your nervous system. It's like that whole concept of like outcome independence. Like it's hard. Try not to care that you didn't get to walk your 2 miles. Just go, you know what? You
Right.
know what, Nita? Yeah, you did the best you could today. Like you did the 1.5 miles. You started to feel a little sore. Like that kind of like compassion and kindness is there. But also, I do tell people there are times where you need like the parent or coach too, being like, Nita, come on, fucking today, just do it already. Like you need a little bit of that voice sometimes,
Yeah.
but I think most people that are
Mhm.
in these really chronic pain symptoms never really had the compassionate voice, never heard it, never were taught about it.
Got it.
So generally, I think personality-wise and just historically, patients need a little bit more of that. But there are, like, the
Mhm.
patients that I'm like, "You need to get your damn coach voice on because, like, like, let's go." Um, but I think it's just, being able to understand that the pain, again, is real, but it's the overprotector and, like, find something that brings you joy. So I had a patient that was like, after one of my presentations, she was like, "Oh my gosh, now I'm more motivated just to play the guitar again." Like it doesn't have to be a walk, it doesn't have to be a run. It's like what movement soothes your nervous system, or go out and dance in different ways, like not trying to, show off any dance moves, just like what does your body want to do? Does it want to do something weird, like
Mhm.
put, your hands all over your body and wrap around? Like what does your body want to how does it want to move? And
Mhm.
so yeah, I think that's just kind of the end motion, or message is like, understand that there is a true mind body connection. The way you think, your past history, right? What you've been through, what you're going through can all change the way that your body moves with protection and guarding and anticipation. And the more you bully yourself, it's going to do the same thing. It's going to make you protect and guard. But if you sit in the corner of a room and do nothing, your nervous system is going to stay at that same state as well. So, not push through it, not avoid it, just kind of hang out there in the middle, be curious, and this is right, all the work, Sean, the expressive writing, the meditation. Don't force yourself to be like, I'm gonna meditate for 2 hours and I'm gonna make this
Right.
pain go away. Or again, never meditate at all, or somatic tracking or whatever it is. is all of this work has to be done with this more curiosity, compassion, and just understanding though that like what's happening to you. Like it is all real, but it's due to your alarm system being stuck in this fight or flight response.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, Nita. So if people are listening to this and they're
I need a
like
good
I need
therapist.
some reassurance. Right? I need a good physical therapist. I need some reassurance. I need to feel safer in my body and I need some help with that. Where can people find you?
Yeah, so I do some of this work virtually on Wednesdays. You can email me at nita.paincoach@gmail.com. I also work with Becca Kennedy, so her website is resilience, I think, believe resilience healthcare, healthcare or hyphen healthcare .com. And you could just Google me, I'll pop up. My IG is Instagram is Nita Cares. Um, I know it's kind of cheesy, but that, that
No,
is,
that's
yeah,
when you I was like, "Aw."
yeah, yeah.
Do I follow you on Instagram? Maybe I
I don't
don't
know,
because
you
I
might
don't even
follow
know
I
that.
think
I think I
you might
do.
follow my personal one, I don't know if you follow I just opened
Oh,
and
okay.
also there's nothing really on Nita Cares yet, I just started it, like, I don't know, I have, like, a few posts on there, but my goal is to kind of, really get my name out there a little bit more in 2026. That was kind of I've again been doing this more mind body work for 8 years, been in rehab for 25 years, like, now I'm really starting to, like, feel super confident in my body and my voice, and just know people need this work, and I think that's really
They
what's
do.
driving me, especially again, what's happened to, everyone in the US in the last, year or so is like,
Yeah.
we're all in this, like, kinda scary hole, and, it's just being able to, like, get the word out, even if it's just planting the seed for patients, that's my goal, and again, especially in our community, the LGBTQ, plus community and marginalized communities is really bringing this work, to that surface to, bring it to the
Yeah.
world, so, yeah. Yes.
And I'm just I'm so glad you're doing this because it really does land differently. I mean, it takes all of us. I think about like Dr. Sarno would work with a team of therapists, and people really took Dr. Sarno seriously because he is a doctor.
Yeah,
And it's similar with a physical therapist. Like
totally.
if say I had a patient who also saw you,
Mhm,
that would just make them feel more
for
confident
sure.
in the diagnosis and make them feel more safe in their body. So I do really want to encourage people listening, like, don't um don't hold yourself back. If you're feeling like I don't feel safe in my body and I need some professional help with that,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Don't hold yourself
Yeah, and
back.
I think the other thing, you asked like what can a PT do is often like when I work with Becca, they do. They just want to hear the answer from Dr. Kennedy, like because she's neuroplastic
Sure.
too. Like for
Yeah.
orthopedic stuff, sometimes the patient just needs to hear from the PT or the doctor like this is totally neuroplastic.
Right.
So that's one thing like even if you just saw me for one visit is we could go through a whole like the history of it all and then break down your body movements and then you can go back to your therapist, Sean, and continue with the work, because that's sometimes all they need is like, "Well, does Sean really know anything about orthopedics and body movement?"
Exactly. Right. Because not a lot,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, and so even just having that one visit either with me or the doctor to
Shit.
just get the, like, confidence and clarity, again, in your body to what? To feel safe is huge for people. I mean, sometimes that's like the Sarno thing, they just read the book and they're like, "Oh, fuck, I'm safe." That could be the therapist or the doctor and then make your work, as a mental health provider, like, so much easier.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, Nita, thank you so much for coming
For
on,
sure.
and all of those links will be in the show notes so people can find
Yeah, it
you.
was great talking to
And,
you.
awesome, awesome. And for everybody listening, this has been Mind Body Medicine for Chronic Pain, and I will talk to you next week. If you're looking for a therapist, you found one. And you can decide, does my vibe resonate with you? Therapy is an opportunity. Therapy is an opportunity to tune into you, to learn to feel more comfortable being yourself, to feel more comfortable with your emotions, and to feel more comfortable existing in the world in your body. Do you have difficulties in your life? Maybe it's chronic pain, maybe it's something else. Maybe you want to become a person who likes yourself. Do you want a therapist to help you? And would you like me to get to know you and to help you? That is actually an option. You can find me at SeanHershey.com or MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com. Both go to the same place, and if you're looking for me, I'd welcome a message from you. SeanHershey.com, MindBodyMedicineForChronicPain.com, and you can request a free consultation.